Hi guys, so today I'm going to be reviewing the 2017 release of Ghost in the Shell, the live action film, and I gave this a 4.5 stars. So I won't be going into any spoilers or anything like that, but yeah, I'm just going to tell you my non-spoilery thoughts. So originally, knowing that there was like an animated film and TV series or whatever, I never actually knew what this was about. I'd always see it and just be like a little bit confused as to what it was about, but now seeing the live action, I think I can explain it at least reasonably well. I'm not too sure if it's going to be like the best explanation possible, but there are some pretty good synopsises online. I don't know why I never thought to just check those out. But yeah, here's what I feel like I can summarize it as. So I would describe it to be like a sci-fi film set in a futuristic version of our world, of like Earth, I guess, like a very advanced futuristic film. I feel like it's got a lot of other genres kind of thrown into it. For example, there's a lot of, I guess, warfare sort of themes running throughout, sort of like, how do I describe it? I don't know, very gunny, like shooty. There's also, I feel, horror elements, me at least, because especially when the geisha robots are concerned, they really freaked me out. So I would definitely say it's got some tense horror kind of aspects thrown into. But anyway, the world that they all live in is modified by like technology enhancement, so everyone's got like modifications on their body to kind of make them mesh with robots kind of aspects. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm doing it justice, but I thought that was a really cool concept. Honestly, I was expecting this film to be higher rating than a 12A, because seeing from the trailers it did seem a little bit intense, and definitely when I went to see it I felt like it was an intense film. But I mean, it wasn't, I mean, I can understand, I guess, how it would be a 12A, but I just thought maybe they could have lifted it a little bit higher, and then maybe some of the scenes could have been even more intense. But yeah, I feel like it should have been a little bit higher maybe. I don't know. It wasn't necessarily scary, there wasn't any sex, so maybe I'm just talking crap. Anyway, so we're following a character called Major, who's like the first of her kind in terms of AI, because she has a human brain, a completely like cyber enhanced body. We're following her as she kind of goes through her life, following orders in her job, which is to dispatch of the world's baddest criminals. Also, there's a particular circumstance that ignites this idea in her head that her past is not what it seems, and so we're kind of following her as she discovers her true identity and her true past. I really wasn't confused at all. Like, I mean, I thought I'd be really confused, again, because I never really understood the premise of the storyline, but no, it was a really good, well detailed story, and I wasn't confused really at all. So I know there's a lot of controversy about them casting a white actress, Scarlett Johansson, love her by the way, as what I presume is a Japanese role. I even had my hesitance on that, because I find it a little bit annoying when like American companies and that do kind of, I guess the term's whitewash, I don't really know. I wouldn't class this as whitewash here. I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, I can understand how people of that ethnicity is now seeing a different ethnicity playing the lead role, how that could be annoying. I will say that Scarlett Johansson did make a good casting for it. I think she acted it really well though, and it does make sense, like, because if you think about it, it's just her body, you know. It doesn't mean the person inside her isn't of a different ethnicity. It's a bit, I'm getting a bit too into it, but if you see the film or you know what the storyline's about, you kind of know what I'm talking about, hopefully. And in terms of why I wouldn't class this completely as whitewashing, is because I don't know if this is an interpretation of the Japanese animation, or if it's a complete copy or whatever, because as I say, well, I don't know if I've already said, but I've never watched the Japanese version, so if it is an interpretation, you can cast whoever you want. And as well, I feel like generally the whole cast was quite diverse. There was a lot of like African American characters, there were Japanese characters, there was white characters. I feel like there was a good diversity among them, but I can understand how people would be a bit annoyed about the fact that the main role was not a role that it should have been, if that makes sense. But yeah, I do think the producers did a good job with the characters that they had and the way they expressed the film. I thought it was a really good film. I am just going to quickly ramble about some of the things that I don't like. I just find it easier to list those, so it might sound a little bit like, oh, but you didn't like this amount of things, why is it such a high rating? But I don't know, I just want to highlight those so you can see the things that I pick out, if that makes sense. I say that a lot, blimey. If that makes sense, I don't care if it makes sense, I'm explaining it as best as I can. But one thing that kind of bugs me a little bit, I never understand why one character will talk in one language and the recipient that's answering talks in a completely different language. Like, they clearly understand each other, right? So why don't they just answer in the same language? There was multiple times in here where someone was giving particularly Major orders over the phone, or like in their little telekinesis whatever, and he was talking in Japanese, but she would respond in English, and I was like, why can't you just respond in Japanese or talk in English or what like that? It's so confusing. I don't understand why people do that. That really confuses me, I guess. Oh, another thing, it's not really the movie that I didn't like, it's more with the trailer. Now I really hate when trailers kind of do that little bait-in task where they put scenes in the trailer that aren't actually in the film. There was one scene where Major was like snogging someone and I was like, ooh, that's exciting, and she didn't actually kiss her at all, I think, in the film, and I was like, oh. But the scene where I think that would have happened, I feel like they actually cut a lot, and I will explain that in a little bit more detail. So I don't know if there's a director's cut in the future when it releases to DVD, or if it was just to kind of bait you to come and see the film. But if that was the case, it's really annoying. Just like show us what's in the film, like little clips that's in the film, and leave it at that. Don't add things just to get views, you know. It's really annoying. If something's hooking and grasping me from a trailer already, like, you don't need to add lies, you know what I mean? Back to the cutting. So yeah, there was a few scenes, the one that I said as an example, where it just felt like choppy, and I felt that throughout actually. Like, there were some scenes that were worse than others in terms of the choppiness of the editing. Just, I guess I would have preferred it to run a bit smoother, make a little bit more sense in where they decided to cut scenes, so it would just flow better. But yeah, those are some of my annoyances, I guess, about the film. Oh, and I guess, I don't know if this tags on or not. It sounds like I'm really being negative. I'm not. I loved this film. It was really good in my opinion. But there was a lot of times, like specifically in the beginning, where I thought that Major's boss, I'm really sorry, she's the only one's name that I like remember, I'm so bad with names, but Major's boss, I felt like he didn't really have a purpose in the film. I can understand how they needed like some kind of figurehead for the department that they worked for, and it did help later on in the film, but there was a lot of times where I was like, oh, couldn't Major have just like said that, or somebody else that was more important role, do you know what I mean? Because he was on the sidelines quite a lot in terms of actually the character. I felt like he was a side character, if you know what I mean. But yeah, he did turn out to be pretty badass. Like, I really liked him as a character. There were just a lot of times where he felt pointless, particularly in the beginning portion of the film. I'd be interested to see if you guys feel the same about that. Like, was he originally, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name as I said, but was he originally in the like animated version, or did they add him, or what? I'd like to know, like, if it has any relevance, I suppose. But yeah, oh, in saying that, I will go back eventually and watch the anime versions, just because I've been interested before. I just was a little bit intimidated on what it was actually about, and just, you know, other things take over in life and you don't get to do the things you want to do all the time. But yeah, so let me know if you would recommend the original films and animation. I think it's a film and a TV series, but yeah, let me know if it's worth watching. So I really like the music and the visuals of the film, which is so beautiful. How the music stayed true to the kind of feel of the film, if that makes sense. Like, it sounded quite techy, but at the same time it sounded very like traditional Japanese music. I'm not a pro in that, so sorry if I'm wrong or I'm saying something out of character or whatever, but the visuals were stunning. Like, a lot of the work was clearly like CG, but the application of it was just beautiful. Like, the way it was designed was really well done, and the choreography for the fighting scenes was amazing. I thought, like, totally sucked in watching. I was on the edge of my seat literally throughout the whole thing, pretty much. Like, my neck was really aching by the time I finished watching it, because I was just like so like stiff and staring right at the screen. But those things were all so awesome. I've got to say, the holographic projections in the city, like the really large giant ones, were quite scary as well. Like, they really freaked me out, but it's something I can actually visualize this happening in the future, if we don't kill ourselves first because of like global warming and all that shit, which is apparently a lie. I'm getting off topic, but yeah, they were kind of scary. And talking about the projections and the technology, it's really interesting seeing how there was very little to no like nature. Like, it was quite scary to see that. Like, it looked really good. I loved the way it was designed, but it was frightening to see there was no nature, no wildlife, nothing. It was off-putting. But yeah, I feel like that could happen, which is scary to say and scary to see as well. But yeah, I was overall like very impressed with the design and layout of the film, the way it was structured. It was beautiful. It really like gave me a buzz, which I can actually imagine would be a very physical thing that you could feel if we were surrounded by everyone and everywhere being enhanced by technology. I feel like you would actually get that buzz, you know. And there was a scene in it doesn't really spoil anything, where Major is like floating in the sea, and she says that she likes how silent it is. There's no noise around, it's just complete darkness and complete quietness. And yeah, I can see how that would be like a nice relief, you know, because when you're living in the heart of the city and everything's enhanced with technology, I could actually imagine that you would get that buzz. So even though I was feeling that because of excitement for the film, I think that's actually quite a literal thing that you would feel, and so I loved how attached it made me to the film and how it made me feel these things, which was quite cool. I've already mentioned this a little bit, but it was definitely more like gun bam bam than I was expecting. It was very actiony, very packed and infused with action, really. But I mean, I thought it was done really well. There were a lot of times though where the shooting was so loud and I kept jumping and flinching every time, because I just, not that I wasn't like expecting it, it was just so much louder than I was anticipating each time. So that was one thing that shocked me. I'm not used to like gun films, like, and I wouldn't really call this a gun film, but like there was a lot of guns so maybe, yeah. And I'm not used to that noise and that loudness, so it just shocked my body a little bit. The villainy of the film was quite interesting. Again, I suck at names. I can't remember what the character's name was. I think that might spoil it a little bit anyway if you don't know the background and the story of it, so maybe it's good that I don't remember. But yeah, it definitely took an emotional turn that I wasn't quite expecting. To be honest, I wasn't quite sure that I liked the way our villain was acted and like played out. Again, I don't have the original to compare to, but I just felt like the acting was a little bit stiff and a little bit awkward, and I felt like, come on, can you speed up these scenes a little bit? Not because they were slow paced, but just because of the way it was acted, I feel. I mean, it was a decent job, and I think it paired quite well with Major's personal story, which I think again was really well done. I love the fact that although we was following Major as a main character in her own personal pathway, we did get a lot of time where she was with her team. I like the relationship she built with them, some more than others, particularly her friendship with Battle, I can't remember his name, but I really liked their friendship, but I would have preferred more with the rest of the team. But it was still nice to see, you know, she wasn't solo in everything. She had a nice strong backup system behind her if she needed that. So I do think this was a really well put together film. However, I would have preferred for a longer viewing. I think it runs about 2 hours or so. I actually thought it was going to be longer than that. Sitting there, it kind of did feel like it was running long, but at the same time, I just feel like, again, with the choppiness of some of the editing, it could have been really well fleshed out, and I think a longer film would have allowed it the time for that. But again, I'm aware of like, you're only allowed a certain amount of time maybe. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but I do feel like it could have done with some more viewing time. I do really hope that they have like an extended director's cut for when the DVD's released. I think I would really enjoy that. Anyway, coming from someone who hasn't seen the original like animation versions, I really did enjoy it. Do you guys think I should check out the original films and TV show or not? What did you think of it if you've seen it as like a live action film, and what did you think of the choice of cast? I would really love to hear your thoughts. So that's it for this review. I really hope you've enjoyed and maybe it's helped you decide whether you want to see it or not. And I'll speak to you in another video soon. Bye!